How does it feel to be a top racer? What is the thinking process behind doing so well in races? Well, today I'm going to share exactly just that with the Keep Up with Biker Bones race, showing you various strategies from how you could go from a terrible race player to improving your timing and improving until you can get pretty good timings on these races. So this race is actually a really good race to start off with for beginners. The reason being, it's a really easy map. 1200 starting cash rounds 10 to 40, no monkey knowledge, so this means baseline same powers for everyone, and a 50% ability cooldown rate, which will come to at the end of the video. We also start with a free Etienne, something that you don't get in races. Granted, Etienne not the best hero for races, but you know what, we could make her work. And also, there's a lot of cash that we start off with. We don't normally start off with $1,200. So what we normally do is we look for towers that have the highest DPS. So one of these towers is the tech shooter, a 130 tech shooter. Actually, most of the time we only have enough money for a 030 tech shooter, but this time we have enough for a 130. Now, this is not the only tower that we could get. We could also get a 320 Dark Monkey. We could get a 302 Boomerang, but we don't have enough money. That's more for the mid game. Again, as I mentioned, blade shooter earlier on. Ice Monkey is also pretty good for the early game, especially 010. You can get ice shards if you want, especially for the mid game. Also pretty useful. And let's see, both not the best start, but cannon ship is not too bad. You could also go with druids, druid of the jungle. That's also pretty powerful, but usually use druid of the jungle for games that last until round 60 onwards. So anyway, we got lots of options, but the best tower for this start is attack shooter. So,
side note, that is wrong. 230 attack shooter is not the best start, as you will see later.
For the sake of consistency in this video, I'm just going to start all the racers with a 130 attack shooters. Let's go ahead and send a few rounds. We're going to do a trial one here, so we don't really care about timing. What we want to do is think of a strategy that could help us in the future. So we want to upgrade our attack shooter to a 230 when we can, because even faster shooting allows it to deal more DPS to an already powerful tower. Now, we could add on more DPS to this, and you might notice that I'm sending the rounds quite slowly. It's not as fast as you guys are used to. Reason being that, as I mentioned earlier, what I want to focus on is testing a strategy to see whether it could be feasible. We don't really care about timing just yet, something that we could work on later on. So let's send around 32. And yeah, so I've added a bomb shooter, which does cluster damage. As you can see, it deals quite a large amount of damage to these balloons, and it is extremely powerful for, you know, a bomb shooter. And I've upgraded to a 204 because once again, it's way more powerful. Now granted, as you will see later, we don't necessarily have to always upgrade towers to 204. 203 is actually pretty good if you know what you're doing. You might notice that camel balloons are a problem, so we're going to add a sub. But you might think, hey, wait a minute, don't we have Etienne? Why can't we use her? Well, we only start off at level 1. Actually, we don't have monkey knowledge, so we're not going to start her off with level 3. And besides, by the time we unlock level 8, guess what? It's 140, and that's when the race ends. So that's it really. That's it for this race. And you might notice that there are some more balloons that come out at the end, and here's the thing, if you could pop them sooner, or find a way to pop them sooner, we could have shaved 5 seconds of our time. And well, we got a timing of 1 minute and 41 seconds. We have $9,000 in cash. So obviously we could use this cash to do something else with it. And yeah, this defense is certainly it's okay. It's not good, but it's also not bad. But we could improve a lot from here. We could cut down our timing by half if you play your cards right. So let's go ahead and try a few more strategies to try and improve ourselves. So let's go ahead and try to actually put a glaive ricochet to use. How do you use a glaive ricochet in a race? Well, let's actually start off by sending a few rounds first. Let's send to round 22. Because we want to maximize the amount of DPS that our blade shooter is doing. And to maximize our DPS, we want to make sure that the blades don't cause any more balloons. If you guys get what I mean. So let's go ahead and get our bomb shooter here. We're going to set him to close because this middle portion is always the best. And we're going to full send to round 40 right now. Why? Because we can get cluster bombs, and once you get cluster bombs, you can get heavy bombs, which means this fella is starting to deal massive DPS. Now, how do you use a boomerang? Well, once we get a glaive ricochet, we can use it to target, well, most of the balloons actually, and let's actually get our sub before we forget. And with this, you can see that actually, the glaive ricochet is pretty good at dealing with cleanup. I mean, we're ignoring these camos. Obviously, we could deal with these camos better, but for now, this works just fine. And yeah, you don't even need a 402 more glaives. 302 works just fine. You might notice that I got myself a 320 Dartling Monkey. This is for our cleanup. Our cleanup requires us to clear out the balloons from the start of the map. So, of course, the laser cannon, I'm not sure whether it's the best, but it does a good job at cleaning up balloons from the start of the track. So, yeah, especially for round 37, because again, round 37 is going to be the longest round you will ever face in this race. So, let's go ahead and try to improve our strategy. We got a timing of 1 minute and 11 seconds, but we can try to, you know, lower our timing a little bit. So let's go ahead and lower our timing. So here's a strategy that I use. We start off with a blade shooter again. We're going to send to round 22 once again, and we're going to get even faster shooting. Now, the thing about racers is that you want to use the entire length of the track. So let's actually send to round 37, because round 37 is the longest round in the game. And I'll explain why that's important later on. But for now, we can send around 40 once we're done with 37, and we can go ahead and save up 4 cluster bombs. Actually, because you can sell in this way, so we're going to go ahead and sell. Actually, I should have done that earlier, and we might die, but I don't think we will, so we're going to leave it as is. And we're going to go ahead and get ourselves a second bomb shooter right here. And as you can see, because I've been talking too much, I've died. So it's important in races that you try not to distract yourself, and this is why in most race videos you don't see people talking in them, simply because you need to have your utmost concentration, else you're going to die, just like how I did. So I'm going to try not to talk as much, but I'll show you guys a strategy. So as I mentioned earlier, you want to make use of the whole track, and this is such that hopefully by the time the most of the balloons come down here, or I come down to the end of the track, you will have a good enough strategy to deal with these balloons, or rather clean out the balloons at the end, so that while the balloons are making their way through the track, and because this is a long track, there's lots of leeway for you, you'll eventually be able to have enough money to clean up the balloons. So let's go ahead and try this again, with less talking this time. So round 22 start, we're going to get even faster shooting, and we're going to start for our bomb shooter first. Actually, we can send to round 37 now, and we can get we can sell this fella once we hit about close to $300. So let's go ahead and sell this and get ourselves a 103 bomb shooter, which is good enough until you get a 203. Now we're going to go ahead and add more DPS to this fella. So a cluster bomb is good. You can set it to close if you like, but because of its placement, we don't really have to. We can add a camo sub at the end, which will help decamo the balloons, and another one over here, and we can add a second bomb shooter to clean things up faster. Now we're going to add our Dartling Gunner right here. This should be simple enough, and we can actually sell our towers at the back so that we could get more money for us to do whatever we need to do. And there we go. We can use this fella to clean up the rest of the balloons at the end. And you might notice that because I sent round 37, or rather the rest of rounds earlier, we actually end up with round 39 instead of round 37, which would be the camo whites. And we got a timing of 1 minute and 7 seconds. You might think it's not a big improvement from the previous one, but it is. Thing is, it could have been optimized a lot better. It's just that I didn't really try that hard. So what is the lowest timing you could possibly get in this race? It's somewhere in the ballpark of 50 seconds. So I'm not going to spend too long trying to beat it. If I can, I'll record and show you guys that one.
So, as you guys are watching this, I'm recording this part off camera as it is impossible to race while talking. So I'll explain my race strategy for a near perfect clean on screen. You might notice most racers don't talk while racing, and that's because you need 100% of your focus on the race, as you guys are seeing on screen right now. Even for such a simple race like this, getting a low timing is extremely difficult without 100% concentration. Granted, skill is also involved, and here's the thing about races. The key to improve in races is to practice and have patience. Non-stop. Just like everything else in life. Because for races in particular, you will lose. A lot. It took me a combined 6 hours across several days just to get this timing. Knowing the strategy is not enough. You must also get used to your keyboard or your touchscreen. You also need to adapt. Learn which towers are better at what, where to place them, when to upgrade them, etc., etc. But hopefully you guys find this video useful as a tool to teach you how to get better at races.